Welcome to Beaded Doilies by Shell. Here I am going to be showing you my new pattern collections. In the new pattern collections, the first page will be just some useful information. Then you'll have your color count for the pattern collection 1. There's the round doilies and the hexagon doilies, and also the band doilies. Then we have the size charts, which I've included sizes for delicate beads, and then the 10-0 seed beads and the 8-0 seed beads. Then I also have sizes for the beads that I use, which I use crystal for my jewelry pieces. So I have the crystal sizes. Then I primarily use the 4mm plastic, but I have sizes for the 4mm, 6mm, and 8mm. And here are the 3 smallest pieces. Oh, I can't show it to you right now. I have to show it to you later. The hexagon and round doilies are all in one pattern. For the 3 smallest ones, the hexagon is just adding the corners. Otherwise, you just bead without doing the corners for the 3 smallest. For the larger ones, the hexagon is outlined. So if you would like to do hexagon, you can just stay within the outline. Otherwise, you just bead the whole thing for the round. We have many different sizes, all the way up to the large, which is on 4 pages. And then we also have the band doilies, which I included because they are part of the jewelry collection, which the circles are a part of. Now here I have several pieces I've created that I wanted to show you. For the 3 jewelry pieces here, I used these colors for seed beads. And as you can see, here we have an accessory on each end, which I'll show you how to do that. And the doilies are connected one to another. For the bracelet, I used all one size of seed bead. But here, I used 2 different sizes. I started down here at the small, worked my way up to the larger, and then added the accessory at the end. Where the pendant, I did the opposite. I started with the larger beads, worked my way up, and added the accessory at the end. I also have here crystal, which these are the colors I used for this piece. I prefer crystal beads for all my jewelry pieces, so I wanted to include an earring, as this is the earring size. I also did hexagon in the seed beads if you prefer to do hexagon pieces. And this is what we'll be creating today, but I'll also be showing you how to add accessories as we go. And this is the color that I originally designed this piece with. It's a lighter red. I found I preferred the darker red, so that's what we'll be using in today's video. And for the hexagon, I'm not as creative, so instead I went with doing different colors. So for the first one, we have this, and the second one, and we have the third one, and the 4th one is my favorite color combination. And you can pretty much do any color combination, especially at the smaller sizes, but even the larger sizes. The design is simple enough that it's a great Christmas pattern, but it can also be used with other colors for other things. So we will, oh, and I also wanted to let you know, for the bracelet, I used nylon thread because I wanted it to be more flexible. But for the pendants, I used 4-pound fishing line for the pendant and earring. also used the 4-pound fishing line for this large piece, which these are the colors I used. I like the matted when I use the transparent. So as you can see, it's coming out very nicely. Not quite complete, but this is the largest doily size done in the 08 seed beads. And I am using 4 and 6 pound fishing line while creating it, so that both will work with this size bead. Now when you go to print your pattern, nowadays lots of different programs will open up PDF files, but they tend to, even though the pattern is set for landscape, they tend to print them in portrait, and as you can see, the size makes it quite small if it prints it in portrait. So you want to check your print properties and make sure that it prints out your pattern in landscape. Here you can see that the patterns are printable in black and white, so if that's what you have at home, that's perfectly fine. That's what we have at home. The colored, it was printed at my daughter's college. Also, I printed out some of the larger ones. You can see that if you prefer the hexagon, you can easily follow the outline, even with the black and white printings. Now, another thing I've done is I've named my patterns, but I've used numbers and letters. The numbers represent the size of bead it was originally created for. So we have 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, and 8 millimeter. And then the letter represents the item it was originally size-wise created for. S stands for a small doily, C, coaster size doily, O, ornament size doily. So this one here is an 8 millimeter small doily, 6 millimeter coaster size doily, and a 4 millimeter ornament size doily. Then we also have pendant, earring, as well as medium size and large. Now we're going to be creating the round today. I'm using the smallest doily pattern, which is the one I used for all the pieces I've shown you, except for the very large one at the end. To make it easiest, I'm going to go ahead and cross off the corners, which are for the hexagon. And we're going to be using the 2 needle stitch. And for the 3 small doilies, I start here and then I add this one side as I bead this row, and then when I get over here I add this side as I bead this row. Now when you do the larger patterns, I recommend that you start in the center, create one half, then come back and create the other half. I find that to be the easiest way to create the larger ones. But like I said, for the 3 smallest, they have just the corners, you cross them off, and then you add this row as you create this row. So we will begin. Here are the bead colors we will be using. We have 18 ruby. If you prefer the lighter red, that would be 17 Christmas red. Then we have 04 dark avocado and 23 sun gold. Alright, we'll open these up. Now, as we are doing the 2 needle, that means we will start with this bead right here on the bottom. So we will add that yellow onto our string, drop it. Now, I'm going to show you about this piece. This is if you're doing a bracelet. I usually use the really small seed beads for bracelets. You could also use the next size up seed beads probably with this pattern. But you would add your accessory here. So we've added our first bead. On your right string, you would add your accessory. Now I'm going to use this, and the reason is because if you're using the tiny seed beads, the accessory is going to move around. The beads are going to pop in and out of it. And as most bracelets, I do use the tiny seed beads. I wanted to show you what you need to do to make sure that your accessory stays where you need it while you're beading your piece. So we have our accessory on, which with the larger beads it would stay put, but we used a very large accessory so that it'll move around as it would with the tiny seed beads. Now we're going to add 2 yellows to each string. And we're going to cross. Okay, now we're going to add to the next circle. We need 2 reds. Then on the left we want a green, and on the right we want a yellow, and then we're going to cross with the red. So we want 2 reds. Then on the left, want a green. Oh, I just realized we are not crossing here because we are adding this. I sometimes forget until I get there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a red as we've done here, and then we're going to add the red, green, and the red to the left string. So we have 1 on this one, 3 on this one, and then we're going to cross the yellow one to get us prepared to add that extra circle for the side row. Now at this point, if your accessory was staying where it belonged, you would want to make sure that it is on the same side as your crossing here. So you'd want your accessory to be on this side in between these 2 beads. As this one jiggles around, doesn't matter really. Okay, so now we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 beads to the string that is coming down towards our previous circle. So we'll add 4 beads to this one. And then we're going to cross our 5th bead. Bring it down, and now we have that extra row on. So we're going to take the string that is coming in towards our row we're currently working on, and we're going to go through this top bead. Then we're going to turn our piece so that it matches our pattern. We'll take our 2 strings, bring them up, and now we are here. We've already added this bead with this circle, so we're only going to add a red to the right string, and then we're going to add a green and a red to the left string, and we're going to cross with a yellow. And we keep our finished row, which is this little tiny one here, to the right, and we are now adding our last circle, so we want to end over here. So we're going to take the string that is on the same side as our finished row, and we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 beads to it. And then we're going to cross the 5th one. And now, as this row is slightly shorter, we are in the 2nd side bead, and we want to go through the 3rd side bead with the string on that side. And then we want to take the string that's coming out towards the end of our row, and we want to add a red, yellow, red. And then we're going to be crossing with a green. Right, keeping your finished rows to the right, we will now go through our 2 side beads. Then we'll take our string, bring them up, and we are now going to add to the left. So we want to add 2 greens, and then we are going to cross a green. And we'll go through our 2 side beads. Now this next circle is the last circle in this row, so we want to end over here, so we're going to add a red to each string and then cross with the yellow. Oh, and I wanted to mention that when you go through these side beads, you want to make sure, that's why I had this one here loose, is with the seed beads, if this happens to end up over here, you could get it caught inside your string. So you want to make sure that your accessory is on the opposite side of where you're working, so that it doesn't get caught in the string as you are beading this last circle on this row here. So just watch out for that when you're doing a bracelet and you have an accessory on this end. You don't run into that problem with this end because the accessory gets added with the very last circle, but just with this end you might have that problem. Okay. Now we've added our 2 beads and have crossed. I think I showed you up here, but we're actually down here. So now that's what happens. It's symmetrical and I'm not marking the pattern. So, but we're down here. We've added these 2. We've crossed. Now we're ready to add this circle. So you want the the string that is coming out towards the end of your piece. I mean your row, and you're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 yellows, and then you're going to cross with the 5th yellow. Sorry about that. If you've ever wondered about my pile, it keeps the lighting correct. It's a strange thing about lighting in videos. Alright, now I'm going to go through my 2 side beads. Alright, and as we are going to add this side circle with this row, we are now going to add a red to each string, and we're going to cross with a yellow. So we want to end over here instead of up here. So a red to each string. and crossing with the yellow. And now of the two, we want this string here that is coming away from our finished rows. And we are going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 yellow beads. And then I'm going to cross with the yellow. And that adds on our side circle. Now we want to be coming up this side bead here, so we're going to go through the top bead of our previous circle and the 2 side beads. We'll go through our top bead. Oh, and we want the string that is, of course, coming in towards the beads. And our 2 side. Alright, now all these circles are already on, because this one here is part of this. So we need a red one on our left string, and we need to cross with a yellow one. Then we need to go through this 1 side bead, and we are now ready to add this last circle. There are 4 beads that we're going to be working with. Now, if you were going to add an accessory, you would add 2 beads to your left string, and then you would add your accessory here. And you'd add 1 bead to your right string, and then you would cross. And then your accessory would be here. But of course we're not going to add an accessory because we're now going to discuss continuing, making more, connecting them together. Now for that, this bead here is your shared bead with this one here at the bottom. If you're using different size beads, your shared bead should be the smallest size. So at this point, if I was using large seed beads, instead of putting on another large, if I would, the next doily was going to be smalls, I would then cross with a smaller bead, small seed bead. If I was using small seed beads and going to large, then I would finish off with the small, and I would start then the next one with the large. So we have our doily. Now when we want to begin, we want to make sure that this doily is laying correctly, all the finished rows to the right and the row we're on here. Then we would ignore this bead because we already have it on here. That's our shared bead. And then we would just start and redo the whole pattern. So our start bead is our shared, so it's already on, and then we would just begin again by adding 2 yellows to each string, and crossing. And then you would just continue and repeat the whole doily again, which for you could just go back to the beginning of the video and follow, remembering that your start bead is your shared bead, and then just go from there and redo it as many times as you need to for whatever accessory you are making. And then at the end, like I said, when you come to the last circle, just before you tie off, you would add to your left string your accessory, and that would give you a bracelet. Or if you don't add anything to this end and you repeat, you add your accessory. It can be a pendant, can be earrings, can be sun catcher, whatever it is that you are wishing to create. and that is the smallest doily in my collection. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in other videos.